I have another Tinder story. It's Tinder round 2. I wanted to say thanks to everybody who took the time to make a comment. They were fun to read, and this has been a lot of fun for me just to sort of revisit some of the old Tinder times. Most of the stories that I have are from many years ago. They're 6 or 7 years old. So, and I try and be mindful of people's privacy. I'm not going to share any particular detail that's going to out somebody. I don't think that's the right thing to do. And so I want to make that disclaimer now before I sort of dive into this. The other part of telling Tinder stories is you have to get to a point where you're comfortable sharing somewhat intimate details of your life. I mean, Tinder it's an adult dating site. So some of the stories I have are, I'm going to be talking about sex. It's just, that's the nature of Tinder. That's a big part of it. But you have to find a balance between sharing everything and then leaving it so bland that it doesn't really capture the heart of the story. Anyway, I'm just sharing a little bit about where I'm attempting to go with this. I don't want to tell this story. I sat down to do this video. I'm like, I don't want to do this. But because I'm trying to share the Tinder experience from a very human perspective, this story has to be told. So here we go. I met Mike in 2019. And this is a period of time in my life that I'm drinking a lot and really not making the best decisions. For those who don't know, I've had issues with alcohol in the past, and I sort of want to normalize having that as part of the conversation. I think that's an important thing. But it also speaks to my mindset and not making the best decisions as I tell some of these stories. So just keep that in mind. So I met Mike at Henry Hudson's, which is a bar. It was across the street from my house. This was late one night. And I had walked across the street to the bar. And then as he tells his side of the story, he'll say he had on his sweats and comfy clothes and some snacks and was getting ready to watch one of the March Madness basketball games. So we start messaging this particular night, and at some point along the way, he's like, I'm going to go meet up with this girl. I'm out drinking alone. You're going to come meet up with me? What a shock, Anyway, we hit it off fine. He falls somewhere between not attractive and very attractive. He's just, I don't know. He's fine. So we're playing music on the jukebox, having conversation. I'm drinking quite a lot. He drives me home. And then we sort of start this relationship type thing that's halfway between friends with benefits and a full-on relationship. The gist of what we're doing with each other is meeting for happy hour. A lot of times that would just be at my house. He would stop by and be like, hey, how's it going? Everything good? Bring me some food sometimes. So we're becoming friends. And I would say it was about 9 months to a year into our relationship. We're out at a bar one night, and he says, I need to tell you something. I'm like, shoot, what's up? He's like, something happened, and it's just important that I tell you this. I'm like, okay, go. He's like, no, I can't tell you on a bar. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know why you're telling me now if you're not telling me now, but okay. But before he left, I remember him saying, we're friends, aren't we? I was like, yeah, of course we are. And I could tell he was really out of sorts. And so I arranged it the following week for him to come over. And so one night he came over, And we're in my bedroom, and I'm sort of propped back against the pillows, and he's sitting by me on the edge of the bed. And he's like, something happened and I need to tell you. I'm like, yes, you said that. Now go, because this is driving me crazy. And so he starts to tell a story about the weekend prior. He's like, my wife, something. And I was like, ex-wife. And he keeps talking and telling more of the story. And he says, my wife. And I'm like, ex-wife. And then all of a sudden it dawns on me, like, all right, come on, Brooke, let's get up to speed here. I was like, oh my God, you're married. You're fucking married. I did not see that coming. Like, not at all. And so my silence, even like I have a hard time talking about this right now. My silence now is indicative of my silence at the time. Like, what do you say at this point? And as I'm sitting here in stunned kind of silence, shocked. And then he says, you never really called me Mike that much anyway. And I was like, oh, your name's not even Mike. Wow. And so, like, I got to come down from that. That was a tough time, and I think I had a little bit of a meltdown. The good part of the story is that at least this wasn't somebody that I was in love with, that I had planned a future out with. He was just not that person, and he was never going to be that person. So it would have been infinitely harder for me if that had been the case, if it had been someone I was in love with. And so I was like, your name's not even Mike. Great. So this is kind of a funny part of the story. He pulls out his driver's license and he shows me his name. And I was like, that's not your name. that can't be your name. And this is the sad part, is I can't share that information. It was a very unique name, and I'm almost regretful that I didn't get a swipe left on him just because of his name. So anyway, the other part is, because this is a time in my life that I'm not doing that great. 2 weeks went by. He apologized. I mean, he had apologized profusely the whole time, but I let him back in and we started hanging out again, basically. He and his wife were in sort of a caretaker situation. I think that's, like, I'm not trying to justify my actions based on that. Everybody's going to have their judgment about it, but I'm an adult and I make my own decisions. You can disagree with them, of course, but they're still my decisions to make. He messaged me. This is 2025. I met him in 2019. He messaged me this week. I was actually doing one of these videos and I see a Facebook Messenger pop down. And it's weird. It takes a second because I have to, like, his name is something totally different than how I initially knew him. It's like, it takes me a second. But he said, we met 6 years ago this week. I was like, and? I mean, I didn't respond at all. Once you heal to a certain point in your life, you don't allow those things back in. And like, I forgive him and I hope things are good in his life. I guess I don't have ill will towards him, is I guess what I mean. So I can sort of look back on our times together a little bit and see, all right, well, this somehow shaped who I am now. So I have to have some appreciation for it. We find lots of things out about ourselves in really dark times or times that aren't good. So I appreciate him for that. But this is really sharing the full Tinder experience for people who especially haven't been through that. It's a lot of fun and you can learn a lot about yourself. You meet a lot of different types of people. But yeah, some challenges and some bad people are going to come through along the way. And I have other stories about a lot of it. So I hope you'll tune back in And I hope you enjoyed the story. Peace out.